War and children. Problematizing the problems and the effects of war. Number 1. It causes the partial or complete destruction of economy and the physical living space like the housings and the basic infrastructures. Number 2. In relation to the first point, the destruction of economy. It does so by draining a country's resources through manufacturing war-related materials to the population that served in the military. But there is something else that war also destroys in the process. Children, the lives of children, in which children lived through a serious traumatic event at a young age that no one, especially a child, should live through in the modern day. Being experienced through a war that will negatively affect child's life trajectory through trauma that is hard to heal from or fix. Remember this child? This is the Syrian child refugee in one of the refugee camps in Turkey who thought the camera on the cameraman's shoulder was a weapon pointing at her. This is what the war has taught her. A trauma at which that anything that looks like the barrel of a gun is potentially dangerous, and by being in a hands-up position of surrender pose might just save her life, even when she is already in a refugee camp where there are no more direct threats from the war at the moment. So how does war affect children? War builds and reinforces a negative perception of the world and of people overall through traumatized experiences like excessive violence and deaths witnessed during war. At the same time, culture as a whole is lost over time because there are not enough materials, time, or energy that goes towards passing down the cultural representations, things like food, language, traditions, and cultural celebrations. This is due to almost all the energy are being directed towards the immediate basic survival of each individual. Additionally, education for young children is neglected due to time and energy being redirected towards survival. Along with this, materials necessary for education are scarce in areas affected by war due to logistic and safety reasons. Places like war zones and refugee camps are good examples for this. This means that children are not taught and are learning to their fullest potential in comparison to children who are not in this situation. And this is why physical conflicts like a war should be avoided at all costs. Deconstructing injustice and inequality. So why is there war? As pointed out in Mr. Tyler's article, there are two causes of war. War happened either due to 1. Dispute over resources and land, or 2. Government's desire to increase influence and power. Of course, war brings destructions, especially on 1. Destruction of infrastructures, 2. Displaces populations, so in terms of refugees, and 3. Loss of life, both civilians and militaries. Destruction of infrastructures like clean and sewage water treatment plants, railways, major road junctions, heating facilities, and a safe place to live. This means that the basic functions of life are in jeopardy, and everyday citizens and children are unable to live a safe life and makes escape more dangerous. The marginalized and the low socio-economical families have a harder time in relocation due to low funds to support them to travel from one location to another, through buying food, water, pay for transportation, and the likes. Displaced population. Refugees are often needed to live in refugee camps, especially during wartime, since there is a surge of people fleeing war. During the journey of getting towards the targeted country, it is possible for a child to get separated with their family members for numerous reasons, like military attack to the group, whether it is intentional or not, or from possible human trafficking activity. The loss of life during war includes both civilians and military personnel. To a family within a war, one of the worst possible scenarios imaginable goes to a child being orphaned due to casualty to most, if not all, of their family members. It is traumatizing enough to witness the violent deaths of your parents and immediate family members as an adult. How will a child take in and come to terms with this traumatic event when there is no more mental and physical support to help ease the sudden change? When you suddenly are required to become an adult and face this unfamiliar and unkind world. To reconceptualizing our thinking into a better future. Individualism versus collectivism. Currently, Western values continue to dominate in the world. As part of this value, an individualistic approach is often ingrained into most people's ways of doing. This means that many people have various degrees of this is about me or I'm more important type of mentality. This often leads to people being inconsiderate to other people and harming others just so there is a personal gain. But if we switch to a collectivistic way of thinking, what you are doing throughout the course of life is more about how will my actions affect other people's around me. If most people have this type of thinking, conflicts are less likely to arise and even less likely to escalate to the severity of war, thus reduce the likelihood of traumas that are caused by war arising from disagreements and conflicts.